If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is our live call and talk show all about the Wheel of Time. Today, you are back here for, what I love to do. Talking about Wheel of Time theories. These are specific to the TV show. We're breaking down some ideas that our new guest brought to us, and we're going to be adding to those with you, getting your comments out of chat, opening the call lines today. This one's going to be a lot of fun. Don't forget, though, to be back here next Wednesday. We're going to be talking on Wednesday with the Weaves of the Wheel podcast. I keep on saying Weaves of the Wheel podcast. I can't remember. I'm getting all my naming wrong here. For new readers, make sure to be with us here on Wednesday. And then, of course, it's Comic-Con on Friday. We'll be talking all about whatever's going to be dropping. And I'm still not sure what is dropping on Friday. Neither is anybody else. So be here for that coverage. Can't wait till that happens. We have a lot more coming up here at the Dusty Wheel, but that's not why you're here. You're here to talk to my two wonderful guests. Let me bring in them now. Welcome, Marcel and Maurice. How you both doing?
Doing pretty good.
It's good to see you both. Maurice, this is your first time here at the Dusty Wheel, so thank you for showing up. And I like I said to everybody, you did send me some of your ideas, and as soon as I saw those ideas, I was like, oh man, we have to talk about these with everybody. So that's in part, everybody, why we are here discussing theories today. So, and by the way, Dana's like, it's the wheel weaves. I know. There's so many wheels and weaves and reads. My brain just got, yes, it is the wheel weaves. It's with Danny and Brett. They're going to be here, and we can make fun of me on Wednesday for that one. Okay, so let's jump into this. Marcel, it's awesome to see you, as always. Thank you for being back here at the Dusty Wheel. And Maurice, let me show everybody this first one that we're going to be covering, this first theory. Hopefully, you all will enjoy this. I think you will. It's called, I'm calling it at least, Breaking Bonds. Basically, Maurice has thrown so many theories. I don't know, it's an amalgamation of theories together. And so I love what you've done, which is kind of you've outlined almost like the plot over this first season and then stretching into a variety of the books. So I'm going to have you dig into what that is. But just a reminder for everyone that's jumped in here, this show will contain spoilers. Lots of spoilers. Book spoilers. I'm not all the way to the end of the books, probably, but maybe. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh shoot, I don't want any book spoilers, don't watch now, because we're gonna be talking about how maybe this inclusion of Logain into the beginning of season 1 affects, Rafe's what Rafe's plans to do with this TV show. So all the way, I don't know, maybe to the end of the books. So with that being said, I've set the table for you, Maurice. Maybe just kick it off and talk to us about this idea of whatever Rafe's doing with Logain kind of inspired you to come up with this.
So I think part of what inspired me is that this whole TV show, whole working out what's going to happen, takes me back to being about 14 years old and reading the series for the first time as it was coming out, and everyone having these wild theories and pulling more and more together. And so that's why I get so excited and love to do this. So I like thinking about where things are going, where they could go next, that kind of thing. So what I was thinking is, one of the things they have to do in the adaptation is they have to find ways to convey information that you'll need later on, but visually and through the action. And the other thing they'll have to do is start thinking about the longer story arcs of some of these characters. So I thought it was really interesting, and hopefully everyone can understand my accent here. I thought it was really interesting that they brought Logain and Alanna in this early, and I was wondering, well, how will they use that to illustrate some of these things we need to know later? And so the first thing that I thought was that very much that scene where Logain breaks out here is in mini form a little bit of what we'll see at Demise Wells. And I know that Rafe said early on he's super excited to do Demise Wells. That's one of his favourite scenes. So I can't help thinking this could be foreshadowing, or it could be Rafe going, well, if they cancel me before I get to book 6, I'm going to have at least got this one in. So I think he sees it maybe as a little bit of a teaser for us to foreshadow to the audience what that might look like if you're dealing with Rand and everyone he's got around him and a Ta'veren of that nature.
Yeah, I didn't connect to that like immediately. You went from a foreshadowing perspective. You see this trailer, just even the little we've seen so far, just foreshadowing a ton of events, which I do love. Had you seen that, Marcel, before? Like, did you see this moment that I just showed on screen as as basically Demise Wells? I mean, that's a great foreshadow right here, honestly. So, was that in your mind?
It honestly, I'm curious as to what he'll be able to do, and I think that's kind of why I really didn't have much to add to these theories. I'm just like, that would be really interesting if Logain's first usage of our seeing a male channeler use the one power is to use it in a way that is gruesome, and kind of indicative of what Demise Wells would be like. So it makes a lot of sense to kind of tie that together, and then it'll make sense later on why people are so terrified that the spoilers, but that the Black Tower has been launched, and that these guys are learning the channel. You're like, whoa, what? We don't want more Logains running around doing all that, destruction and stuff. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. It's just that initial foreshadow. I don't know why I hadn't seen it before, but I love that you picked on that. Okay, so from that foreshadowing, where else did you go from there? Yeah, keep taking us down this rabbit hole, if you will.
So I also saw some of these foreshadowing things we'd see happen with Alanna. I expect that after, so firstly, we'll see how it illustrates how the bond works and works in this more complex fight scene. And I tracked through, and I think people have pointed out that the people who are in the cave with Logain are not in that fight scene, but their waters and Aes Sedai would be able to feel it. So when Kareen, presumably, I think we all decided she dies when Logain breaks out of that cage or is very severely injured, then Stepin, who is on the battlefield, is going to feel that and run back there, which is why we see Moraine's the last person, she's holding the shield, and Stepin runs in berserker style, because at that point Logain's out of the cage. So we're seeing this way the bond is connected, but also the depth of emotional connection that Waters and Aes Sedai had. So this foreshadows for when Moiraine dies, the reaction Lan is going to have. But then the whole thing following that for Alanna, I can see them really setting up her character, that she wants to save Stepin. She wants to save him by bonding him. And everyone's like, no, we don't do that. We don't bond people against their will anymore. That's a bit, well, I'm Maurice, that's my handle on Twitter. So, you know, I might even bond someone against their will, but these days they don't do it.
Well, okay, so I love, because you then looked at this as foreshadowing, like you said, some of the rationale, maybe giving Moiraine, or giving the audience the rationale to accept kind of Moraine's choices when it comes to Lan, right? You're seeing that she sees what happens. Not that maybe she isn't aware of these consequences, but again, this is for viewers. Viewers can see what happens, and then Moiraine has the rationale that viewers need to understand her choice that she makes with Lan. And I love that all in this like initial sequence that Rafe in season 1 are doing, setting up not only foreshadowing Dumas as well, foreshadowing Moraine's choice, foreshadowing maybe Lan's feelings about it. You know, him watching this occur, but his feelings of, well, he's always had a death wish, if you will. You know, and so this is that, like, why would you not, you know, maybe from Lan's position, why would you stop this from happening? Like, this is part of what, I don't know if Lan, not that he wants it, but it is part of this experience as a warder. And so I love that you kind of picked those two. Anyways, sorry, Marcel, did you see this as a foreshadowing of Moraine's choice initially?
I didn't, honestly. It makes sense because you do see, I think you might, I don't know where I saw this, but you can actually see Lan in there once Stepin runs back in, right? Yeah,
I can find that in.
So he's in there, so that makes a lot of sense that he's seeing it firsthand, and like, you know, maybe he hasn't seen, you know, Water go into, you know, revenge mode right after their Aes Sedai dies. So it could hit home a little bit too, because he'll actually see it. And I wonder too, you know, along those lines, you know, if in that rage, in that grief, Alanna does decide to bond him against his will, because I think if Stepin's on board for it, then it doesn't. I don't know. I feel like I like the idea of him, you know, her potentially, you know, doing that and using that element early, so that we know that she's done it before and it was frowned upon then, and you know, maybe she'll do it again, and it maybe, you know, we can see through Stepin how it affects him, and then we'll understand a little more, you know, if it, you know, happens to Rand. I'm assuming they'll still do that.
I think they'll be setting up the moral dilemma of it, so the audience comes in and feels like, and people take sides, and it's water cooler chat, you know, should he have done that, should she have done that, what was the right thing to do. I don't think they'll maybe steal that surprise of Alanna doing that, but I like the idea that they'll set up that she thought that was a good idea, or that if Stepin dies following this, she thinks she can save someone through doing it.
Yeah, because I think I've heard this idea before in the conversation in the trailer. Like, obviously, any conversation, anything where a warder bond is broken and Alanna is concerned, it's going to create this this conversation. Do you actually believe then? So, do you think that Alanna will bond Stepin? Is that how you think this will play out? Do you think Rand was trying, or that Rafe was trying to kind of show us this process that to maybe resolve or maybe help heal the berserker state, that this is a choice that's made? Is that where do you think that Rafe is going, Maurice?
Me? Yeah. I think you wouldn't have to do that to show it. In fact, in some ways, I think it probably is better if he turns it down and then kills himself, something along those lines, because it shows the stakes. You just have to explain that it's a way of potentially being rescued. Doesn't always work, but then we can see when that happens with Lan later, we know exactly what's going on.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's the question I'm going to ask everybody in chat. This question, which is, you know, do you believe that that Alanna will bond Steppin. Marcel, do you think that is? Do you think that will happen, or do you think this is just meant to maybe bring up the question among the Aes Sedai, among Alanna? You know, like maybe this is something that should have been done, or I should do, but not actually do it.
I think I like it more if she doesn't do it, but she brings it up as an option that, you know, she's willing to do, and then the other Aes Sedai that remain are appalled at it, and you know, maybe they shut her down. But you know, she seems, you know, adamant about doing it, and is kind of put off from it. I think that's a good way to set up that future, you know, plot where she does that to Rand. So yeah, I mean, I prefer not. I think I prefer it that she doesn't actually bond them.
You definitely see this connection between the blue and the green, right? You see, not that Karine wouldn't have healed anyone like Liandrin or something to that effect, but you definitely see, like, when she's coming out, when I think it's Moiraine here, finding the spot, you see the green kind of turned in towards Moiraine, others kind of with their backs turned, whatever that means. But you know, this idea of the greens and the blues, and it seems like maybe they're kind of really playing up that relationship. So I don't know, like, would they play up that relationship by, you know, here's something where you have a situation where you have then Lan and Moiraine, right? And this question of who would Lan go to, you know, who is trusted, who does Moiraine trust in this regard? So yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, I think, Maurice, you said this makes good water cooler talk. I think you're right. Yeah. I like this moral dilemma kind of discussion that people will have. But it looks like people think, let's see, almost 100 people have voted here, and no is 62%. So most people think it's probably not going to be an actual bonding. What do you think, maybe from here, Maurice, what do you think is going to happen when it comes to Steppin then? You know, sure, the moral dilemma, maybe wanting to bond him. Where do you think that Rafe might be going with Steppin?
I know that a lot of people are a fan of him being Elias. I find it difficult to see how we'll get to him being Elias in that time frame. I haven't got a sense he's had yellow eyes. I feel like Egwene and he must become a wolf brother and train Perrin really quickly. If that was to happen, that seems a bit surprising to me. So I tend not to be part of that Elias can. But I think you could either see him pine away, or I think it would be like you would see him reacting very badly if he doesn't decide to go to the bond, just to show how significant that is. Could be a dramatic death of some kind, or it could be he's just getting sicker and sicker and they can't save him.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Do you think, Marcel, do you think that they're going to go the dramatic death route here, or just kind of someone wasting away? You know, how do you think that Rafe? What do you think that Rafe's intent is to show with Steppin?
I think, and I'm going to pull in some rumors from the. I think I put it in the in our document we have, but essentially the idea that he might give at least one of those axes to Perrin. I don't think it means he needs to be Elias, but I think the axe hammer motif in Perrin's story needs to feature here. And if he gets the axe from someone who's, like Steppin, at that point, I'm assuming he's going to be, this will be, afterwards, after Karine has died, assumingly, he'll be in a state of, rage and depression, and, he's withering away, and maybe Perrin identifies in that, because I'll pull in another rumor that perhaps, Perrin lost maybe his wife or some significant other during winter night. And so maybe they meld, or, at least bond a little bit over that. And then that kind of leads me to think that he would go down the route of, all right, here's my last battle. I want to go into my last battle and go out, axes blazing. And I think maybe Perrin, I don't know how that happens though, because it's like the only fight I can imagine without knowing any more of the story is, maybe the Aes Sedai and Moiraine and Lan and Nynaeve go to save Perrin and Egwene from the White Cloaks, and maybe Steppin's with them, and maybe he goes out there. But that doesn't.
Gotcha.
That seems to make more issues than I think they would want in that scenario. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. They could go the route. I think the axes, again, it's one of those things, right? You bring in Alanna and Broken Bonds, we're gonna have that discussion. You bring in axes anywhere in the story, and then we're gonna have the conversation of the hammer and the axe. Like that, we're just gonna have that conversation. So, I like showing that, like, tragic. Maybe it's this in this moment with, you think about this moment where he's jumping with with axes blazing. Is that what was said? Let me throw this up there. I think it's right in this section here, right?
Yeah.
This might be a great death, as in they might show that, as much as maybe they, you have Moiraine, although why would Moiraine not stop him? I don't know. And then you have Lan here, Lan doesn't seem like he's in any stance that planning to attack here.
Right.
It's hard to see him there on the screen. Let me, for those kind of watching there he is. He's off in the corner. You couldn't see him. So it's hard to, he's not even doing anything. This, maybe we're seeing not only Kareen's, or thinking that he gets, injured here, but then of course we do have this scene, which we go back to the beginning, this seems like it probably happens later. You have this idea that he seems like he's likely still alive because he's here. Oh, not this scene. Sorry. This one, right? It's like hard to pin this one. People think that they see him. Maybe they see him right here, I believe, like just under that group, that individual standing in that first ring.
Right. Yeah.
That maybe Steppin's there. So you have this idea of, okay, so he likely makes it past this, what type of, from a tragic death, if we know that he makes it out of this alive, do you still agree with that, Maurice, that you think that might be, is it more likely a tragic death to you, or do you think it's more likely to go maybe the route that Marcel's saying, which is maybe he finds some purpose in, either mentoring, or maybe there's some kind of bond that he creates with someone else like Perrin?
No, I'm team tragic death. Yep.
Tragic death is where you're thinking. Okay, so let me. Okay, we're gonna go tragic death. Do you think that Steppin dies a tragic? Are you thinking getting first season? Is that what you're thinking, Maurice? Okay, in season 1, does he die a tragic death? Here we go. Let's find out what everyone thinks here. So okay, so what we have so far is foreshadowing Dumai's well. Foreshadowing Alanna's. Now, you mentioned this, and we didn't really focus on this. Alanna's choice to bond Rand, which tragic death does make more sense in that regard. And so this idea of if a tragic death, then Alanna would look at this as in she should have maybe done something. So that could be a motivator for bonding Rand. So foreshadowing the bonding of Rand, foreshadowing that experience of Lan and Nynaeve, like, I think those are all like really, really interesting. Anything else here that from, other things that you think are being foreshadowed by this Logain plot, or maybe that will lead into things that happen in future seasons?
I see and obviously big spoilers here, but the bond and the effects of the bond become this huge arc for Alanna that she eventually kind of atones for in a way. And so it makes sense if her story and her internal motivations are partly revolving around this from an early stage. Yeah.
I also think that there's that, it's bringing this question to the front for Nynaeve and Lan, right? Of what does that relationship even look like? Can that relationship exist? And it does. I like this idea. This wasn't one that, this was another one that fans sent me. A fan sent me this idea basically, and it went along with this. So I want to pose this to everyone. What do you think about the idea? And Marcel, I'll go to you first. What do you think about this idea that they're doing this on purpose because Moiraine, they're going to get rid of Moiraine earlier? In other words, they're going to speed up the events that we know happen in the Fires of Heaven but they're going to speed that up and actually have that happen. Maybe let's say season 3, and not necessarily on the docks. This could be somehow, somewhere else. They don't have to do it there per se, but because they're setting up this potentially this idea of bonding, bonds and how they should work, would they really wait, 3 or 4 more seasons to do this? So do you like this idea that their idea was maybe season even 2, like by the end of season 2, we lose Moiraine, maybe season 3 at the latest? How do you feel about that idea?
I'm mixed, because I could see that being appealing just for Rosamund, the actor. Yeah. To maybe just have an easy out at 3-4 seasons maybe. I hope not. Honestly, I hope they kind of draw it out a little bit with her. I hope that's not the case, but I think this might not be good for your aspects for the show, Innkeeper. But I do kind of want them to kind of condense Lanfear's plot a little. And so, I kind of, link her into Moiraine's end. So I kind of, at least initially, right? She comes back, but, I'm kind of actually hoping they don't do a whole lot of the Dark One raising people from the dead after they get killed, But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of shortening that up. So maybe she does get introduced, Lanfear, in season 2, and then in season 3, I could see that being, maybe a season ender, because her fixation on Rand or Luce there, and I think can get a little played out. So if they tighten it up, maybe 2 to 3 seasons worth of that plot, I think would be good.
I like this. Let Rosamund tackle. There's hashtag Rajesh. I like that. Yeah, this is well. Again, if you think about it this way, we can't get to the docks in Cairhien. I mean, we can't get to the docks when it's like season 5, So it has to. At some level, they have to kind of speed up this in some form or fashion, right? So people have talked about books 2 and 3 potentially being mixed in season 2. So maybe you get books 4 and 5, in season 3. So I could see, like you're saying, condense Lanfear and Moiraine down maybe by the end of season 3. That would make sense to me. Like that ending season 3 would be pretty monumental. Not that it can't happen, by the way, letting her tackle. I think letting her tackle is fine. I just, what do you think about this? Do you like this in addition to, what, in other words, does this work for you, Maurice, about this idea of, like you're saying, there maybe almost getting this into our discussion? Do you think that this is the purpose is because Moiraine might be leaving us by season 3?
Well, I think it's logical that Moiraine will be leaving us by season 3 anyway, because we have to conflate a few things. And if you're dealing with, there's a stone doorway in Rhuidean, and there's Lanfear there, and Moraine's there, and all the right people are there, you could easily move the docks there. It could make sense to bring those together. And they do have to, they're only going to have a limited amount of time with these people all together to set these things up. So I suppose it does make sense in that kind of way.
Yeah, if you, especially I like, because you're like you're saying, Rafe is already with this trailer showing us that he's setting up a lot of these conversations and a lot of these kind of trends. So I love that. Now, some fans, a final note on this one, breaking bonds. This relates to all of the Black Tower coming in. Logain's kind of why there's going to be this enmity or this anxiety about the Black Tower in the future. Look what he's just done. Like the first thing you see a male channeler basically do is kill an Aes Sedai, and so all of a sudden the enmity for that other group, and then Logain. Can you imagine how he set up Logain here? Like, people are supposed to maybe like him in the future, like with the redemption arc, maybe. I don't know how they're going to play that, from what people are feeling about him initially. So yeah, I love the season 3 potential, get to the docks here. So people said 120 votes. Do you think Steppin dies a tragic death? It's pretty split. In chat here, it looks like, I want to say it was like 55-45, if I remember that correctly. It'll show up here shortly, and there it is, 52-47, actually really close. So,
there is one other thing that might come out of this. So the other person watching what's going on here is Nynaeve, And apart from her seeing the way that losing the bond affects the water and the extent of that water bond, so she understands the depth of the connection that Moiraine and Lan have. The other thing she sees is how dangerous Logain is. So her choices later on to work on healing him, that shows more like how committed she is to healing over the personal, danger to herself and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like you have her, what everyone seems to believe, and it seems like logical. She's there on the right side in that second ring. She's seeing this outcome of male channelers, and like you said, maybe her reaction is, why isn't anyone fixed this, right? Like, why hasn't anyone, like this? They're clearly whatever mad or whatever in some form or fashion. They can be healed, and especially as that relates to Rand, right? She's going to see this in Rand and really want to solve this. And so, yeah, it does. Nynaeve being here for this moment does foreshadow her desire to heal Rand. It's crazy. Like, you started putting this, Maurice, all together. I was like, I did not see these scenes about Logain foreshadowing so much. So I'm so glad you brought this up. Like, I love how much of the plot is foreshadowed here, because it, again, kind of layers things like Jordan would have in the books and did, but in a way that we can kind of get to these things a bit quicker in the show than maybe the books would have developed them. So yeah, I hadn't even gone anywhere near the Nynaeve healing side of this. So yeah, I
and
love
honestly,
that. Yeah.
Not to belabor it too much, but if you think about, a lot of people not liking a whole lot of changes from the books, right? This being a change that serves the plot, I think really helps too, and builds all of those necessary elements that are going to be, big factors later on.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. So I want to ask everybody in chat here, did we miss any other foreshadowing that is brought up in Logain's arc that we have from a 2-minute trailer? Like, that's how much I love what you've done here, Maurice, is you've taken a 2-minute trailer and laid out basically Rafe's entire plot for the next 3 or 4 seasons, which is great. It makes sense why he would why he might go this way. So yeah, did we miss anything between the two of you for breaking bonds as a theory, or do you feel like we've gotten everything? We found everything here.
I'm sure there's always more to do, but at the moment I feel we've wrung every last drop out of this.
Okay, so that was breaking bonds. I want to see. I want to say just generally here in chat for asking everybody. Do you believe Rafe intended? Sorry. I'll get this last poll in here, and we'll jump on to the next theory. Do you believe Rafe intended all of these foreshadows? Because you think about how they crafted, how they crafted this trailer too, right? The pieces that they're showing us as book readers. No new viewer is going to know anything about anything we just discussed. They're just going to see this happen and experience it as it goes. But that's so much fun. So much fun. I love it. Okay, that was number 1, everybody. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. Please give some love to Maurice's theories there in chat for those of you who are watching us there. I want to jump on to number 2 here. Our next theory is a fun one. I called it Escaping Tar Valon because that's just a fun name. That's right. Escaping Tar Valon plus Min and Loyal. I didn't have a good way to insinuate necessarily, because we didn't get really, I guess we probably got Loyal in the trailer, but we couldn't really see him. I could have zoomed in, I guess, and put that picture here, but I love how you've tied all of these next pieces together. So Escaping Tar Valon. Now I don't know if this was driven in part that question of how did everybody get to the Waygate? I don't know if that's where you began in this one, but yeah, maybe give us the broad strokes here, what you were thinking, and we can kind of break this one down too.
Sure. Yep. No, that is where it started. Looking at that shot in the trailer of them coming up to the Waygate. Where is that Waygate? Where are they going? And why on earth are is the group separated in that way? That was the thing I kept coming back to. So you've got Moiraine, Loial, Perrin, and Egwene. I think I'm pretty sure that's who it is, standing at the top near the Waygate. And then we've got Mat, Rand, Lan, and Nynaeve coming up on the horses. Yeah, that's right. So this to me was quite an interesting split, because why would Lan and Nynaeve be separated from Moiraine? And she's already obviously got Perrin and Egwene there, so they've gotten away from the White Cloaks. Somehow Loial has joined up with them rather than being with Mat and Rand. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. And I was thinking about, well, what is going on here? Why is this happening? Obviously, I think we've all agreed that they've skipped Camelin. They've gone to Tar Valon.
Right.
This must be the Waygate they use to exit Tar Valon and get over to Feldara, or close to Feldara. Yep. It looks like they're going towards the Waygate and into it. So I think we can place where this happens fairly well. Yep. And before this, we've obviously met Loial. Rand and Mat have been found by the others, and Swan appears to have spoken with Nynaeve. We also saw in this trailer already. So Nynaeve must have got to Tar Valon with Moiraine and Lan and the other Aes Sedai. We've seen all those people there. So we can sort of start to cobble together bits of it.
I want to show this part really quick. That people have mentioned, I think this is the Ogier Grove down here. Clearly not like related to a Waygate that's on the top of some random hill somewhere. So so definitely not, while they're going to Tar Valon, not seeming like they're leaving in a Waygate that's in Tar Valon per se. So and like you said, it does look like from this scene right here, right? I think, like we said, this Nynaeve and Lan is here, Moiraine. So Lan and Moiraine and Nynaeve are together. So how do you basically, you think that Waygate clearly happens after Tar Valon, and there's a scene, and do you agree with this scene that, if I can find it, we have, here it is. Yes, this one. Do you agree that you believe this is Swan speaking with Nynaeve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty
so
convinced by that.
Yeah, that's another one here. Based on the idea that you believe they go to Tar Valon, Nynaeve's with them, they're in Tar Valon. So how are you getting us now? Okay, so now take us. Nynaeve, Lan, and Moiraine are in Tar Valon. They've clearly left Tar Valon to go to this place, and Nynaeve and Lan are together, and Moraine's separated from them. So take us down that road.
So what I think is that there has to be a bit of subterfuge and a bit of a chase and a bit of things like that to get them out there. That's good television. And Moiraine has to essentially slip away because she's taking them right in. I tend to think that, I let my mind go a bit here, so bear with me on this, but I think it would be cool. So the first one is, and I think people will be comfortable with this, that we've got Basil Gill moved to Tar Valon. We know he's been cast. I like the idea of moving Min to Basil Gill's inn. It will give, if Rand and Mat turn up there and Moiraine doesn't yet know, it will give them a bit of time. Min already has that established eyes and ears role for the Blue Archer, so she's a good way to get word up to Moiraine/Swan that they've found the boys, that's where they are. And if we've got Loial in Tar Valon as well, he can show Rand like the Ogier Grove, or we can see him with the Ogier Grove, so we get that sense of their history and the potential loss of the history, the significance of the Ogier Groves and things like that. So I like that sort of potential setup. And that's how we could have the boys together. And if Lan and Nynaeve are also in Tar Valon, it would be fairly easy for Moiraine to send Lan off, and potentially Nynaeve with her, to round them up and get them out of the city, while she is more overtly doing things that don't seem to be escaping with someone of significance. Now she's got she's got Perrin and Egwene and Loyal there. So presumably Perrin and Egwene have got rescued by the White Cloaks. And I had this interesting idea that if they're hiding the dragon better, one of the people who might look like he's got magical powers is Perrin.
Interesting.
Because he's got the yellow eyes, he's got the wolf thing. Elias says in the books that there were Aes Sedai who tried to gentle him until they realised it didn't work. So if you've got this idea that that the Aes Sedai on the road have failed with Logain. They've had this terrible loss. And then they capture Perrin. Now, I can see Leandrin being really well, look, we've got another one. And then there being sort of humiliation for her as that turns out not to be a thing. And she's sort of taken down a notch, which gives Moiraine the chance to go, see, nothing to see here, I'm not doing anything that strange, and exiting with the others. But then they get word a little bit later after they've snuck the boys out of the city and all shot off through the Waygate. So that was kind of where I thought they might go with all that. It's a bit elaborate.
Okay, so yeah, let's dig into it, Marcel. This idea of Basil Gill actually being in Tar Valon, and then we get Loyal in Tar Valon, and Mat and Rand in Tar Valon. Do you see that if we're skipping Caemlyn? Do you think that's where they're going, or do you think we're still going to get maybe a Basil Gill in Caemlyn, but just kind of in other words, get a stop in Caemlyn, but not the Trakons or anything like that, but we'll still see Caemlyn and Basil Gill there? How do you translate, or do you like this idea that kind of converging it all in Tar Valon and having Loyal and being that same inn?
I like that idea. I like Min. I know, because I think there's rumors that based on the block that Min's actress is filming in, she might be in Shinar. I think I like it better if she's in Tar Valon, and it would make sense too to put her in the one of the more notable inns, the Queen's Blessing from the books with Basil Gill, and then I also thought maybe she could be it's just in Tar Valon, but also perhaps with the Aes Sedai already, because they know about her powers. I don't know if that makes sense to do yet. So I kind of like it better if she was actually in the inn, in the Queen's Blessing. And then I think, I'm curious how they'll do, because I'm thinking through how they're gonna kind of keep us from understanding or seeing or really picking out who the Dragon Reborn is. And so I'm wondering, do you keep those sort of elements to maybe it's Perrin, and then but you also have this element of Matt's probably going to look delirious by this point, and maybe it's madness, who knows what it is. So I think keeping all those elements in there. So I do like the idea that when they save Perrin, he has the yellow eyes already, and they're starting to we as the viewers, first time viewers, don't know what's going on with Perrin. And so I think it makes sense for her to be kind of sneaky about getting them out of Tar Valon. And maybe that's why Perrin and Egwene are already out, because Leandrin's tried to gentle Perrin at some point or something like that.
Well, so I'm seeing this, by the way, in this poll. Do you believe Rafe intended all these foreshadowing or foreshadows? It looks like 70% actually do believe that he did. I mean, he's a super fan, so it would make a lot of sense that he did intend them. And regardless whether or not it was all explicit or some just intuited, just as part of it. This comment came in from Anthony. Thank you very much for the tip. Said it's only foreshadowing if it comes true. That's true.
That's fair.
Well, and what's fair about that is Jordan did this all the time. He left things hanging, and you were like, it really seemed like he intended to do this, and he just doesn't do it, right? Now, and Dana's pointing this out in chat, and I want to cover this one. As far as the block's concerned, I was told this all the time when we were doing these block breakdowns, which doesn't mean everything is chronological and that you've seen, exactly when every actor was in town with everything. But Geekieri has done an amazing job. And so Geekieri is block 4, I think, is when she places the actor who plays Min in Prague or in the areas where we believed the other actors were. So, but there's not much that would have to happen, right? We're talking about Min showing up in one potential scene, and then they're or two, and then they're gone, potentially. In other words, you could actually, I kind of wondered if we were actually seeing Min. I know you guys might all think I'm seeing things, and that's fine. Let me show this screen. It's going to be hard to see. I can't zoom on this one. It's just a video. But I still think it's possible that there's somebody standing next to Loyal, and that could definitely be Min. So I think there's like, people think that that's like just the horse's legs, but we've zoomed in, people, and that looks like a person to me, and I won't step back from this idea. So there being another person with them, I love the idea. Maybe it's Min, and maybe, even if Min's not related to like in Tar Valon, or maybe we don't see Min in Tar Valon, I could see this like all of a sudden Min showing up at the top of this hill, and everyone's like, "Who's this?" And it is like eyes and ears, and goes through the actual Waygate with them. So I like this idea. Let me ask everybody here again. I know Geekieri, I think, does not place Kai there, but do you think they will introduce Min in Tar Valon? Here we go. We'll ask everybody that question. That's an interesting piece, but I want to focus. So I get the Matt and Perrin. Matt and Rand showing up potentially there, and you have Loyal. That totally makes sense. The Perrin and Egwene piece, kind of go back through that. Like, do you think that Perrin and Egwene and the Aes Sedai are converging together in some form or fashion, and so they get pulled into Tar Valon so basically getting to Tar Valon is getting us Perrin and Egwene, is how you're kind of translating it. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I'm not sure whether we've got two camps of white cloaks or one. In the book, they're very distinct. You've got Jeffrem's camp, we've got Eamon Valder's camp, and we know both those characters have been cast. We also don't seem to have Trakan, so I'm not sure why we've got Eamon Valder's cast if we're not following the Trakans at this stage.
Right.
So you could have Eamon Valder could be replacing someone like Childbire, potentially. They're conflating those characters, and they're just all in one group with Jeffrem, which is the group. So I assume that Egwene and Perrin will still get captured, and there'll need to be an escape. And now we know that the people who rescue them, who are Moiraine and Lan and Nynaeve, are travelling with these other Aes Sedai. So presumably they're not going to just separate from them and then re-meet at Tar Valon. Those other Aes Sedai are now going to be involved in that rescue. So I suppose I didn't, which is interesting. I can see them wanting to be on board with that to rescue someone like Egwene with Egwene's potential, and then possibly having an issue with the White Cloaks in doing that. But it is more of a political move, escalating the tension between the White Cloaks and the Aes Sedai, if we know that a group of Aes Sedai like that on a formal mission help rescue those two and get them out. And that could sort of add to the tension as they come up to the town. But it seems to me that still has to happen on the way to Tar Valon by the remaining people in that group who survived the Logain attack.
Yeah, so you've added a couple of potential merge. So you had Eamon Valda and Childbire. That's an interesting mix too. You have, right, we did see, not this particular scene, there was a leak back in the day of a video with wolves and white cloaks. So I could see them potentially, if you have the Aes Sedai involved in some form or fashion in that rescue, and also wolves are involved, then you could have the Liandrin and others kind of play up like, there's something wrong and bad about, and they tie it somehow to Perrin. So it does kind of lean towards, if they're involved in that piece of that, then you can see how that Rafe is kind of, again, connecting wolves to this individual, kind of making him suspect for the Aes Sedai. Because you've pointed this out, at the top of the hill, you somehow have to get Moiraine, what looks like Loyal, Egwene, and Perrin together. And how do you get Egwene out of Tar Valon without being followed in some form or fashion? And by herself, what would she be doing, rescuing those two or finding those two? And how would they have found Moiraine if not, like how they found Moiraine? Because I love the idea that maybe Lan and Nynaeve are sent off to get, you could even tie potentially some warning that Matt's ill. And so maybe that's why Nynaeve, Moiraine, and Nynaeve is like, she goes, and maybe Lan follows her or something, and that's how they end up together because she hears.
Yeah.
In other words, you could potentially mix the illness being a factor and Nynaeve being part of that group, but you do have to split these two groups up. I love that it's escaping again. That's why I threw that name in there, escaping Tar Valon in some way.
Right.
I love that they have to get out unseen. Some of that kind of foreshadows other events that happen around Tar Valon of like always having to try to leave without being seen. It amps up some politics there. So I really love all those pieces working together. Do you think they'll introduce Min and Tar Valon? 57-43. The people are not, there's not like a hard one or the other. People are saying they don't see anyone standing next to Loyal. I get it. If there's somebody standing next to Loyal, I don't know if you know how much I'm going to love if there is, because I'll be like at the beginning of every show and be like, this is your daily reminder. There was somebody standing next to Loyal. I was right.
I see some people in the chat. Some people were making the point, or maybe one person, I forget who it was, sorry, was saying, look, having Min be blue eyes and ears so early on disrupts this idea that she's not got any other allegiances, which is one of the reasons Rand trusts her. I guess that's a really interesting point. There's a couple of ways you could deal with that. The first would be that she isn't really a standard blue eyes and ears, but she, upon seeing Rand sick and Rand looking for Moiraine, she actually goes and initiates that contact for Rand's sake. The other option is that by the time Rand really trusts Min, Moiraine has proven her loyalty and Min's connection is to Moiraine, because that's potentially after Moraine's death.
Yeah, what do you think? Marcel, do you think that would somehow... Full spoilers, everybody. Just as a reminder, we are totally full spoilers here. If you stayed around, I'm sorry. What do you think about this, Marcel, this idea of Min not wanting to be tied too directly with Moiraine as an issue? Do you see that as an issue? Or do you think it's a non-issue?
I don't know. I mean, it really depends on how Rand, how different Rand is from the books, like in the sense that he's aged up. Because for him, for a lot of the time, until he really, I think, what is it, Fires of Heaven? I can't remember which book Min actually joins up with him, but for the most part, he just thinks of her as someone who didn't make fun of him, So I can see the relationship build and having that element be there where she, maybe did work for Moiraine, or she, she was a blues eye, ears and eyes. And maybe, their connection that they established early on will be something that doesn't necessarily make him, feel like he can't trust her. But, it's hard to say, because it'll be interesting how they because I'm assuming in season 2 to kind of jump way in there, they're going to have to introduce his romance with Elaine. And so I'm having to juggle these romances, even for Rand, is difficult, but in the show is going to be difficult in and of itself. So I feel like that will be a hurdle he has to get over, that trust of her. And I think they'll do it, however Min, is introduced, whether she's working for the Blue Aja or not. So I don't know.
The thing I was going to throw out there was Rand sees her talking early on to Moiraine. As in, he already has reasons to, early on in the books, suspect her allegiances. I don't think that changes. I don't think any of it I've heard changes this. And by the way, I'm going to find that link. I'm going to find the image here, everybody, and show you what we're talking about, because there's some question as to my sanity here. So I got it. We have to open up this image so you can all see it. There's clearly some people who haven't seen this one. So this is what we're talking about here. Next to Loyal, we're just saying, it looks like there's additional legs here standing next to Loyal. There's a person. That's look.
It's tough to tell.
It's tough to tell. There you go, everybody. That's the fun.
I think we should suck as much information out of these pixels as we possibly can.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. In 2 minutes, you have led us into 2 really fun shows that are foreshadowing, or two really fun theories that are foreshadowing so much. Let me throw this one up. Jay Diggity, thank you very much. Maybe Moiraine also needs Lan to get Nynaeve out of Tar Valon because they're demanding she stay. Yeah, so that's something that's really interesting, is using Lan to sneak her out on purpose, like because Liandrin, and everybody else is watching them really closely. So, by the way, all these people that clearly can't see what's obvious in front of them on that scene in chat, killing me. Yeah, no,
honestly, I think that makes the most sense as to why Perrin and Egwene aren't there with Matt, Rand, and Nynaeve and Lan, just because it makes sense that she doesn't want them to be in Tar Valon, because if people like Liandrin or any of the other Aes Sedai get a hold of Egwene or Nynaeve, it's going to be hard to let them go. And since we kind of are speculating that we see Nynaeve in Tar Valon with Siuan, I imagine they're going to have to try and get her out. And with Rand and Matt probably already being in Tar Valon, that makes sense.
Yeah, I love the idea. I love the theory. I love the piece that you added to this, which was setting up some kind of humiliation of Liandrin, where Liandrin is like intent on finding some nefarious thing that Moraine's doing. That makes a lot of sense. That is a great foreshadow for what's happening later. The fact that we're getting a Liandrin here, what looks to be more of Liandrin than maybe we would have suspected in a season 1. And now we're getting somebody, they're going to Tar Valon. Others are in Tar Valon. That's where Liandrin and the Red Aja are going to have some fun with this. So yeah, Maurice, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I remember the leaked script for Liandrin, where it was very clear that she was not down with Moiraine. And so you can see they're playing up that red and blue conflict early on. And I kind of like the idea that in season 1, the reds and blues go round 1 and the blues get the upper hand, because Liandrin is a tool, basically. But then in season 2, Elaida comes in and she's much more of a threat. And there's already a bunch of simmering tension around this. And they haven't been... So Moiraine will have slipped out in this and they won't have realised initially, but it's going to be bloody dodgy. Sorry, excuse my language. And the idea that something's going on, they can't pin it back to Siuan initially, but Elaida is definitely going to start trying. And you can see that sort of political tension building from there.
Yeah, I love all of that idea that they're going to have the upper hand this season, but next season that's going to give them reason. Them sneaking out of Tar Valon, that's all, right. It kind of takes some of that Elaida piece and puts it into maybe even Liandrin here, which is, the sneakiness, and maybe you even have some of that Red Aja belief that's already happening from Liandrin's push, and that when Elaida starts saying something, maybe that people are like, oh yeah, we saw Moiraine snuck out with those, with those dark friends or whatever it was. So I love the idea of Moiraine sneaking out, Lan taking Nynaeve out of Tar Valon, them meeting up at the Waygate. Yeah, that's so much fun, and maybe some humiliation for Liandrin for good measure. Okay, so let me show this comment from MR Howley. While I may disagree, here is my money for the Innkeeper being correct on the person next to. Thank you. Yes, exactly. And I like that Matt mentioned in chat here that maybe we should put some ice cream on this. I'm not Daniel Green, and I can't afford ice cream for all of you if I'm wrong. So I will not be putting any ice cream on there being somebody standing next to a horse there. Okay, let me do this. Let me open up the call lines. If you want to give us a call and comment on either of these two theories we've discussed tonight, please do, or today, I guess, 1-313-825-5968. Give us a call. We'd love to chat with you about this, and we'll probably only be able to take 3 or 4 calls at the most. So when you call in, we'll bring you in and just chat with you. If there's another theory you have not heard out there, we don't want to cover Steppenwolf. I think we've all covered Steppenwolf really well across the many channels out there. But if there's another theory that we're missing, or you want to add something to one of these theories, we'd love to hear it. So again, give us a call, 1-313-825-5968. I'll leave that number up, and like I said, take a couple of your calls. Now, I can't afford mugs, by the way, for everyone. if I'm wrong too. So that's just not won't work. Okay. I really, really loved both these theories, Maurice. They're so much fun from a foreshadowing perspective. So that was awesome. Thank you everyone that participated here. And let me ask this final poll question with everyone. Do you think Moiraine will have to sneak out of Tar Valon? Or will sneak? How about that? Will sneak out of Tar Valon. Okay. There you go. I'm kind of curious if you've convinced them that that's what we're seeing there is kind of a Moiraine needing to get out of Tar Valon unseen, and the rest of them too. So while we get that one, I want to move on to our next theory. We can get callers in here. But our next theory it's a little bit different because these are kind of random ideas. So these three were, I'm trying to remember all the people that sent it. I know Corwin sent me one or two of these. Anyways, we're going to be talking about this, just some random ideas again and taking some calls. Now, I'll just cover this first one. So you see this image, if you remember from this image here, it is, let me see if I can go find that. Marcel, do you know where that spot's at, where we have what looks to be Nynaeve holding something at Lan's throat? Does anyone have the timestamp on that one?
I can imagine it in my head, but I don't remember.
So this is the way the theory goes, is like that is actually not a sword of any type, but it's actually Nynaeve's thumping stick. That was the theory, which I loved. It's like, this is her thumping stick that she brings with her. And not only that, the theory goes on to say that it's her thumping stick and that it has kind of like a knife like insert at the top of it. So she can like pull a knife out of her thumping stick, but it also, here we are. And I was kind of, I am kind of enchanted by this idea because it doesn't look like too much like a blade. It almost looks like the end of that. Let me see if I don't have an image of that blown up, but I can go back to, I can go back here and show this. You can kind of see that edge, not really like, it looks like a blunt edge. It doesn't look like a very long sword, if you will. And so it does look like it's not what I just thought it was a sword. Do you think it is a sword? I don't know. Like I looked at it and I was like, oh, I always just assumed that was a sword, and it doesn't really look like that.
It does seem a slightly odd thing to do, to hold a stick to a water's throat. Like I'm not sure what that would achieve, but
yes. Well, that's what I mean. Well, if it is Nynaeve, then clearly it was not meant like, it's more like you better, but yeah, that's true. I like the comment by Wild Gardenia. It's a wand. I love it. And this was the other scene that was mentioned in this. Oh, not that one. There we go. Right. Oh, I was there. Now I'm like gone. Oh, here it is. It's right before this. Okay.
Oh, Bane and Sheard had something there in the chat.
Oh, did I miss that? I'll have to go find it. There it is. Okay. So this, where she's taking this thing out of, like her hand is on, now you can say that's maybe her belt, but the thought was maybe that is like some kind of longer stick that holds that knife. So what are the ideas in chat here? Practice sword, teaching her to defend herself, maybe. Okay. Bane and Chad, in the leaked audition script, Lan says, "Why do you have a sword?" And she says, "Because it's sharp." That doesn't look sharp. Look at that. Maybe it's just maybe it's us. Maybe it's just me looking at that. The lighting's off, and that's a sharp sword that looks really, really small.
I mean, if it's curved, I can see why you might not see the point. So it could be.
Okay, so it fits Nynaeve more than a sword, the knife. Yeah, maybe it's something. It was a funny thing that someone brought up, and I was like, okay, I got to bring this. It doesn't seem like anyone is a believer that that's a thumping stick, but I loved that they said it was a thumping stick. Those are the fun kind of speculative things that you got to throw in there. Let's end this poll. By the way, do you think Moiraine will sneak out of Tar Valon? The answer on this one was, 71%. Maurice, there you go. I don't know if we didn't ask everybody beforehand, but that seems to be kind of an interpretation most people are agreeing with. So, okay, let me bring our first caller into the show before we jump on to the next kind of speculative theory that we got from some fans. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel. Who's this?
Oh, it's Stubborn McShave.
Stubble, how you doing, Stubble? So thank you very much for calling in, man. So what is your thoughts on the two kind of main theories we discussed today? Is there something you want to add to those, or do you want to throw in an idea?
I want to comment on one thing, and then I want to throw in what you call it, a complication.
Okay.
Because we have 3 Ta'veren,
Okay.
and they are not. I mean, some I said I can see Ta'veren, and
Okay.
so if they go into Tar Valon, there may be some trouble.
Or maybe that's actually a good, like, maybe being able to see that would convince them that they were important, and it would force them to kind of have to be like snuck out of Tar Valon, and people might believe, like, if they saw one of them, let's say they saw Perrin and they could tell that he was Ta'veren, that might lead them to believe that he's the Dragon Reborn, or, you know, someone really important. So it's not necessarily a complication, but yeah, that's an interesting point of that might actually kind of amp up the drama.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, when do you think they will heal Matt from the dagger?
Ooh, excellent question. Okay, so yeah, this is a fun one to go back to. Maurice, I'll go to you first. So how does the healing of the dagger, fit into this?
I've thought a lot about this, and before we did this show, I sent Matt a whole lot of notes about season 2 as well, which we've left out of this. So I won't go into that.
It was. By the way, we're going to cover this one. Maurice sent me this, basically this plot summary for seasons 2 and 3 that are so fun. So we are totally going to do a season 2 and 3 discussion of theories. It's a really fun way to view season 2. So sorry, go ahead.
I think you don't necessarily need to heal Matt twice. Like, if the seasons are a bit shorter, we can just have Dagger Matt going on for a while, and then he's properly healed. So you don't necessarily need Moiraine to jump in and heal him here. He could still be just having trouble with the dagger for a while. We still presumably might use him to try and track Payton Thane in season 2. So I guess I don't think you need a lot of time to heal him here. And that could happen in a later season.
Okay. So you don't really perceive it that this is going to be, just because even if he was going through Tar Valon, this wouldn't necessarily be the moment for it. Okay, Marcel, how do you feel? What do you think about that? If we're going to go with Maurice's idea here of Matt and Rand make it to Tar Valon, I'm going to ask everybody in chat about this one. But assuming they do you think there's going to be any type of healing that we see in season 1 related to Matt?
I'm gonna agree with Maurice. I think it's important to keep that dynamic of who's the dragon, right? Because I feel like you're not gonna. I want it to be figured out towards the end of the season, maybe the last 2 episodes. And so I think for that to happen, you can't heal Matt until and honestly, I think it'll happen in season 2, because I think that whole. To figure out what he'll do after, if he's not going to go to Camelin next season, what he's going to do on his way to Tyr, because that's where I think season 2 will end. But I think you don't heal him until next season, to keep up. For you don't want to, all the reasons we just said. We don't want the tower to get a hold of these 3 Ta'veren, that's a reason to keep them from the tower. So maybe Moiraine does the healing that she does in the books, and then he'll be fine for a bit until he can go back and get the full heal at the tower. So I think that makes the most sense to kind of draw it out to next season.
Okay, so you think season 2 plot. Stubble, what do you think? Assuming we get them in Tar Valon, do you think that they'll wait until season 2? Maybe it's not going to happen, or do you think that they would actually try to tackle it then, since if they do end up in Tar Valon?
I'm not sure. Maybe they will do it outside of the tower, but in the Tar Valon or in the outskirts, and maybe that will be the scene where Swan has that encounter with Nynaeve in an inn or something in Tar Valon, and that they do the whole healing thing there.
Yeah,
perhaps.
That's a really
but I don't know. I don't know.
Sorry,
that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were coming with your own answer. Sorry, Maurice, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a really good point about the outskirts, because you could have the Queen's blessing on the outskirts of Tar Valon. It doesn't have to be in Tar Valon proper. It could be in one of those surrounding towns, and that would place Random Mat a bit out of the city. And if you wanted to have a nod to that scene in book 1, you could have Curious Rand coming into the city and climbing up a wall to see Logain gentling. So, there's a few things you could do. If Swan saw him at that point, Swan's one of the ones who can see Tavira, and I can't remember who the others are, but she could certainly identify people.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And you could cover both of those things. She sees somebody somebody in the city at some point. I love that idea. Hey, Stubble, thank you very much. Appreciate you calling in. Any theories that you haven't heard out there that you're just kind of harboring and building when it comes to all the information that's out there? Do you have a theory you want to share with us before we let you go?
A short one. The thing from the third book that they will have in season 1, I think it's when Perrin is doing his blacksmithing thing. I think he will make his axe when he's in Tar Valon. Okay. Gets to Tar Valon, makes an axe. Okay, interesting. Okay, I love it. I love these ideas. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Rafe has planned for us very soon. Very, very soon. Hey, Stubble, it's awesome hearing from you, man. Talk to you soon, okay? Bye-bye. Yeah, bye.
So yeah, that's a fun idea. That's a way too, right? Like they could have it be a smithing side of it, where you actually see him decide that he needs to, maybe protect his friends, maybe protect himself. So there's this last theory, or this last question: do Mat and Rand end up in Tar Valon in season 1? 62% say no. So not believers in that idea itself. They believe maybe it's, I saw some questions like maybe it's outskirts, Bridgetown, but no, not Tar Valon. Okay. So I see that. I see it all. We probably can take 1 or 2 more calls if you are still hoping to make a call and want to make a comment on these. I have, if we go back to these random ideas here. Now, and this other theory, again, kind of trying to explain some things when it comes to the color on Egwene's dress, or the shift here. A lot of people noted, when we were talking about her dress or that shift that she's wearing, we'll show that. What's fun is those are a lot easier to find here when it comes to the trailer, right? I love this. Yeah. I love that Madeline Madden actually did this stunt.
That's crazy.
And it sounds like such a real moment here. Like, I wonder if they practice this and they're like, don't tell me when you're going to do it. And she's like, okay. She's like, be strong. And then chucks her in, and she's like, whatever.
She does look like she's trying to be strong or calm in that moment, and then it's abruptly.
Yeah, and abruptly don't tell me, so it's real there. But when it comes to this shift that she's wearing, people brought up the fact that those colors right there are not necessarily the ones that you see. I think it's shortly here. I could be wrong. When we see her come out of the water. Am I too far along here? I can't remember. It's there it is. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. So, there's some staining on this shift that you don't necessarily, this idea of the stains on the shift. Maybe this is something that they all kind of reuse. And so that was the idea, that there was that everyone that goes through this process wears one that's already kind of maybe pre-stained in prior ceremonies. So I thought that was a fun idea. I was like, okay, trying to explain away some of how we see these little pieces of the theory. And this last one, these random ideas, and when I call them random ideas, these aren't well discussed and conceived ideas like we just did for half an hour on all of those. But this one goes to your idea that you've already done. Those axes actually having meaning. Because it is it's maybe not the right way to think about this, but axes, people were kind of like, why would they go the axes route? So are you a believer in that, Maurice? I can't remember if I asked you, do you like this theory that there's some connection here between those axes that we're seeing in the trailer and that somehow that relates to Perrin in some form or fashion?
Maybe those axes could get to Perrin, but I feel like there are more axes in this world. And that just happens to be I suspect what they've chosen as a weapon has to do more with Steppin's nationality. I think they've made choices around the weapons and the costumes that will tie back to being culturally, a cultural fit from wherever they're from. So I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I loved the idea of them bringing in that scene from book 3 where Perrin makes his own axe, and perhaps that he has gone a bit with where the Tinkers were saying, I'm not going to carry a weapon, and then they get captured and it all goes so terribly wrong. And then he makes the axe in Tar Valon, and you can see that evolution of his character. I love that idea. So
yeah. I that's my preferred now. Now that that's been brought up, I hadn't even thought about that. But now, if I had to pick between those, I can see definitely the arc of Steppin and Perrin working as just a device of trying to tell that story and make that connection. I asked this question in chat, so go answer it if you're here with us still on YouTube. Steppin's axes, love them or hate them? Let's step back let's just quickly ask this question to both of you. Marcel, regardless if this has to do with Perrin or not, do you like the axes?
I do like them. Honestly, I don't like them for Perrin, but I do like them with Steppin, and I think depending on how he wields them, I don't think we've gotten a fair look at how he's going to wield them. So I think that'll matter too. But
yeah,
I get the hate for him. So I'm not averse to that, but I kind of like it. So that's kind of where I feel.
I just love this jump. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the idea that he's being, someone mentioned the idea that Moiraine's almost like pushing him there with the one power. Like that's why he has this like supernatural jumping ability right there. I honestly, I don't remember thinking that what you brought up, Maurice, which was, maybe the weapons that they are somehow related from a cultural standpoint. This is just something that, that he learned, and that's how he learned them. So I agree with Christine, I think, and then Marcel. I like him for Steppin. The double, I don't know if I ever need to see Perrin with a double axe, jump through the air, but it'd probably be cool, I guess. But I want to see like a single axe. Like Haplo just said, yes, just Perrin needs one big axe. That's right. Just give us the one big axe for Perrin, and that's it. So, and I did forget to mention this, by the way, and I just want to say thank you very much, Pat, for the tip. Didn't make a comment, just left a tip. Really appreciate that. So we'll go to the poll here. Love him or hate him. This one was hate him was the overall feeling of the axes. There's not a lot of love for the axes, but
a lot of people hate him, but I doubt they'd want to face off against Steppin with us.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So those were just the fun kind of random ideas that people have sent me. If you want to send me your theories, you can on social media. Just like Maurice did, I love listening to them. I've always loved listening to theories, and your theory might end up in a show like this. You might actually be invited to come talk about your theory if you have one. Like I said, Maurice, there isn't enough time for the season 2 theory. That would take up like its own show, I think. Marcel, did you read that one? Did you read that one?
I like it.
Yeah. It's I know it feels like people are like, well, you're teasing us now. No, there's just no way that we can like even start explaining. But I'll give away this first part of it. I had never conceived of the thought, anyways, I'm thinking like maybe somebody mentioned this, but this idea that that Egwene immediately gets taken in the attack on Faldara, like basically immediately gets taken to Falma, and that you have the kind of Leandrin event that just gets her over there immediately, and that's how we quickly get to Falma and we have everything. And so that makes so much sense to me from a fast forward perspective, but there's so much more to go through. We're not going to dive into it, but I love that as an initial kind of like salvo to season 2. I love the idea that you're proposing there. So thank you both for being here. Any final thoughts from you two about anything that's come up you saw in chat that you wanted to add to this before we let all these fine people get back to their Sundays?
No, I've just had so much fun. It's been so great to have this chat.
Yeah, it's these are a lot of fun. I hope that we helped build on what you've already what you've already suggested for those two. We'll, I think we can even cut those out. We might do that and just put out a video of just each of those individually, because they're just fun ideas and I want fans to hear about them. So people reacting to your idea, inconceivable, that sounds like plausible, that sounds insane. Yeah, I think that may be exactly why why Rafe actually chooses it, because no one's expecting that way to end season 2. Yes, thank you very much. Parminder said, I can't wait for Dark Friend Circles forming them on the Comic-Con fan base. Yeah, by the way, just as a reminder about Comic-Con, please do make sure you're here on Friday. We're going to be doing a live coverage of that event. We're not going to be able to show it live to a live stream on YouTube because there's a paywall. It's a private event, but we'll be covering it live. Just imagine us kind of live blogging what's happening and on screen, and then immediately afterwards we'll be discussing all the details, whatever drops that day. But do come back on Wednesday for the Wheel Weaves podcast. Danny and Brett are awesome. We do this at the end of each book. We talk about that new reader experience, but we talk about the predictions and what they got, basically what Danny got right or wrong. So please come back on Wednesday. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And thank you, Maurice. Thanks for being here. And Marcel, as always, it's awesome to have you back. So thank you everybody for showing up today. It was a blast. If you would like to continue this conversation, you can catch us on Discord afterwards. We jump on Discord just for a bit, chat. If you want to say hi, I will jump in just for a second and say hi to everybody. And then, like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday. Okay, that's it, everybody. Thank you for being here. As we say around here at the Dusty Wheel, good afternoon and smash to black.
Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
You went right to kill it. Look at you. You're already. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the two rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So,
Just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm
sad. I see Nakomi as something along the lines of a Shadar Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge! Yay!
Pair of like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
this is not just a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi elements. And just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guest in here with me, and probably I would say put in 70-80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,